Yeah.
Yeah.
Lego Batman 3 Beyond Gotham.
Yep.
Which I've been playing in co-op with my little boy, which has been, in many ways, a very, very special treat and a really enriching and rewarding experience. We've never played a game like that in co-op before. We played a tiny bit of Marvel. No, actually, we hadn't. We only played that separately from each other. But I bought another PS4 pad for $9,000 so we could do this. And yeah, in many, many ways, incredibly rewarding and enriching. In other ways, the fact that Lego Batman 3 Beyond Gotham is probably slightly more complex than some of the other Lego games in terms of the fact you have to switch between different costumes for the characters, and they just do different things. And some of the puzzles in Lego games, from my experience, always kind of go here to do this, and then that will make that happen, and then this will make that happen, and then it all works it out. But they seem ever so slightly more convoluted in this than in the other ones that I've played. So trying to get a 3.5-year-old to wrap his head around what he needs to do and where he needs to be the whole time was always hard work. So the progress was slow, but it was still worth it, and he absolutely loved every minute of it. And he was capable of doing it as well. So, it's still a very well-made game. Talking about the game itself, it's gone away from the open world of Lego Batman 2 and then taking it back into these kind of, what's the word I'm looking for, segregated off levels, moving from very, very slow start in the Batcave and the sewers below Gotham into eventually blowing out into space and having some levels which kind of function a little bit like Mario Galaxy, where you can wrap all the way around things, and fucking about with the guys from the Green Lantern. I don't know that much about that world. I know about Batman, a bit about Superman. Anything beyond that in DC, I'm kind of a bit clueless about, unless they've made a film about it, but most of them they haven't. Yeah. I'm aware of the Flash's work. I believe he's very fast. But apart from that, I don't really know. Like, there's this character called Brainiac. I never heard of him. Martian Manhunter, never heard of him, sorry. Obviously, the Green Lantern, and he's hilarious in this game. He's the world's smuggest man, as he has every right to be, and he walks like Kim Kardashian. But I couldn't engage with it in the same way I could with Marvel. I'm far from a fanboy of that either, but I just knew way more of the characters in Lego Marvel. But it just doesn't seem as open as the other, as Marvel or Lego, from what I understand of Lego Batman 2 anyway. And as tight as it is, and as funny as it is, and as well made as it is, and it looks really nice as well on PS4, it feels almost like a slightly backward step for the franchise, for want of a less ugly word than franchise, for the Lego gaming universe. But I'm sure Elliot and I will get through the whole thing. He absolutely loved it. I mean, he has no perception of why it's not in an open world, or he doesn't, it's just mucking about with Batman and Robin. So he's happy. I think if I'd played it on my own, I'd probably have managed to get through to the end of the game by now, but that's not really. I'm 32. I shouldn't be playing Lego games on my own, really. Not when I've got a kid in the house.
Yeah. I mean, it's my number 2 as well. I think it's good, but yeah, it's not great. It's not a vintage Lego game, but it is a pretty good one, and there's nothing drastically wrong with it. I think what hurts it more than anything else is the first third, which is based entirely in outer space, and everything takes place in large sort of space station chambers that all basically look murky and almost identical. So the first 3 or 4 hours basically feel like you're playing the same level over and over again, and that's doubly problematic, because one way in which these games always are so good at disguising how repetitive they are is through constantly shifting the environments around. Visually rich environments as well, so this is a game that actually feels quite cheap at first until you start to really let loose. After it leaves outer space and you're reminded of how fun and glossy and inventive the games are when they aren't inexplicably set in space, I think it really, really picks up pace as soon as it starts becoming what most people expect from a Lego game. Like, it doesn't even feel. These games are traditionally quite lavish and expensive looking, and this one doesn't feel like that at first until it leaves space. I also agree with what Sam said a few weeks ago, in that it does kind of flirt with being incomprehensible at the beginning. For a Lego game to assume prior knowledge of these obscure characters with complicated origin stories and whatnot, it's a strange move. I was like a little bit confused at first, but again, once it leaves space and everything just becomes a bit of a mad, hectic chase, then that stops being a concern. There are way more characters than I remember being, even in Lego Marvel. I just mean characters that are consistently playable, and this means that those, there's explanatory little, there's a little bat logo, panels, and you hit them and they give you a little tip.
Yeah.
There's so many of them. It's maddening because they are so prevalent that they're just in areas where loads of combat takes place.
Yeah,
so I just kept hitting them, and there's like a 1.5 second delay where you can't jump back into the game from that panel. It's like, frustrating.
There was even one right next to, it was like a in-game bit that you either had to hit, I can't quite remember, you either had to hit it or press the action button to activate it or something like that, but the thing was next to it, so you'd whack the thing and that was doing my head in.
Yeah.
That was a rare occurrence, but in combat areas they do appear too much.
Yeah, I'm not used to finding these games frustrating, so the fact that kept happening was, a surprise. But on the whole, aside from a Resogun pastiche that just doesn't really work very well, I just didn't think that was. I thought it was a really bad approximation of that game. Aside from that and the dull opening third, that's the other thing. Those space station levels are often so dark that the objectives are less clear than they should be. Yeah. I think that's one of the reasons it's not so engaging at the start, is because it's not really, everything's not clear. But yeah, once it gets going, it's definitely good. It's just not as good as any of the other Lego games. I don't think, if you're looking for a Christmas present for someone and you haven't already picked up Lego Marvel or the Lego Movie game, I'd recommend those two over this one, unquestionably. But it's good. It's just they're very, very often so much better than that.